reverb. You know, it's probably the one effect that I just couldn't be without. Get rid of all the effects, just give me an amp and some reverb, and I could probably get the job done. Now, the question is, when you're recording your guitar, where do you place the reverb? Is it at source? Do you add it later in your mix? Well, I'm going to look at 4 different ways to see which is the best place to place your reverb when recording. Now, spoiler alert, there is no best way, but we're going to compare the 4 different ways and just hear the differences between them, and I'll let you decide. That's what I got going on today. Why don't you join me? Reverb is such an integral part of a guitar sound. Now, it's one of those effects that can make your guitar sound really beautiful, but it can also mess it up in a hurry, not to mention your mix. So where is the best place to place a reverb when you're recording your guitar? Should we record it through our amp? Should we add it later? That's the ultimate question. But the truth is, that's a really open question, because where is your reverb coming from? You might have some vintage amp with a beautiful spring reverb that you want to capture. Well, end of discussion. You're recording with your reverb on. But given a choice, where's the best place to put it? Now, to do this experiment, there was only one pedal I could think of that could actually handle this, and that's IK Multimedia's Amplitube X-Space. Now, the reason I say that, number one, that's a killer reverb. I'm really enjoying using that pedal, but it also exists in plugin form. So I can create a preset on the pedal, and then I can zap it over to the plugin, so the plugin is exactly the same as the pedal. So I was able to record it with the amp, as well as recording clean and adding the reverb through the plugin later. This way it's a real apples to apples comparison. All right, well, I've got 4 different examples to show you, so let's jump right in. All right, I want to start just by showing you the setup here. It's pretty simple. You saw my Sir Classic T Deluxe limited edition. That's running into the Marshall JCM 900. This is a dual channel head. I'm going into the clean channel, and then from there the amp is running through the 2 Notes Torpedo Captor X. There's an onboard 4x12 Friedman cabinet, and that's going right into the audio interface. All right, let's start off with example number 1, and that's with the reverb going into the face of the amp. If you listen to this example, having the reverb pedal going into the face of the amplifier, so the guitar and the reverb sort of become one. The amp is going to react to both of them. Now, if you're looking to create some soundscapes and very specific flavors where the reverb effect is as important as the guitar itself, this is something you would consider doing because it's sort of a vibe thing, right? You're playing, and then you're playing, and the reverb itself, the amp is reacting to everything as a package. Now, there is less distinction between the guitar and the reverb, because the reverb itself is being amplified by the amplifier. So you're going to want to be very careful and watch that dry wet mix. Now, I'm using the same setting on the pedals and the plugins all the way through, because I want you to hear the differences between the two. If I was recording this way, I would really be careful about that dry wet mix, because once you record it, there's no going back. That's what you got. But if you are looking to create sort of soundscapes, ethereal kind of things where the reverb is just as important as the playing itself or the guitar part itself, then you certainly would consider putting your reverb in front of the amp and recording it that way. Now, let's take a listen to the same setting on the pedal, but this time I'm going to run it through the effects loop on the amplifier. Now, listening to this example, you'll notice that the guitar has a lot more definition. Now, going through the effects loop, you're processing your tone. The effect comes after the preamp, so you're shaping, any distortion, your EQ, and things like that first, and then the reverb is applied after the fact. Certainly, the advantage of doing it this way is maintaining definition and clarity on the guitar part itself. Now, you'll notice that it seems like there's a lot less reverb in this example. I haven't changed the pedal, but there is an effects loop level on the amplifier. It's in the back, and it requires a screwdriver to change it. So I just sort of leave it at noon or whatever it is. But again, if this was the way you were recording, you would sort of manage your dry wet mix. If you do have easy access to the effects loop level, then you could adjust that as well and get it to your taste. But the big advantage of doing it this way is that the guitar itself maintains a lot of clarity. If that's more important to you, where the reverb is complementing the guitar, this way the amp is reacting more to your playing and what the guitar is feeding it, and then the reverb is applied after the fact, more of a coloration, and creating that effect after the fact. So biggest advantage doing it this way is that you maintain a lot of definition in the guitar part. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to jump into some deeper conversations with me, some of my friends, and even some other YouTubers, I've got the Lonely Rockers Club on Facebook. It's a great place to chat. We talk about music, production, rock and roll, whatever the flavor of the day is. And some topics for this channel have actually originated from conversations I've had over there. So hope to see you over there. The link is in the description. By the way, the preset that I'm using, I call it Lonely 01. It's basically a hall reverb with a bit of a shimmer blended in. There's a nice long tail on it. You can save your presets right on the pedal and then connect the pedal to your computer via USB. And then there's an application that allows you to share presets between the pedal and the plugin. So I just drag that over. So this way I can have the exact same preset for the next two examples where we're using the plugin in comparison to using the pedal through the amplifier. All right, so now I'm going to take a guitar part that I recorded without reverb, and then in the DAW, we've got two examples. The first one, I'm taking the plug-in version of the pedal and I'm applying it to the track, the same track as the guitar. Let's take a listen to that. Now, I included this example because I want to quickly compare it to the same plugin, but on the bus, and that means we're sending the track to the bus with the reverb. I find when you put a reverb plugin on an individual track, you don't have a lot of control other than what the plugin itself offers. As opposed to putting it on the bus, you can balance that, I think, a lot better. You can EQ your reverb. It just gives you a lot more flexibility. Now, there may be a reason just for efficiency you want to throw it on your track, but for quick reference, let's now jump right into example 4 with the reverb on the bus. So listening to those last two examples together, it's amazing how different they are. Now, when you're sending a track to a reverb on a bus, you have the ultimate control. Just listening to those two, how different they sound. Now, the big advantage of moving your reverbs to a bus, you can blend in your reverb to taste. You can also affect the reverb if you want to EQ the reverb separately, maybe roll off some bottom end, maybe punch up the top end on the reverb. You have independent control, so you're going to have a lot more control of that reverb independently of the guitar track than you would if you actually put the reverb on the same track. Also, there's efficiencies. If you have multiple guitar parts, you can send them all to the same reverb instead of applying multiple reverb plugins on all the different tracks. And then potentially they could be competing with each other and possibly creating a bit of mud in your mixes. It's just a lot more to do. Perhaps it's unnecessary. But maybe you're looking to create some big washy sounds and you want to have competing reverbs, and that's the sound you're going for. But you can hear the difference between placing the reverb on the track versus putting it on the bus. So, which one did you like better? I would love to hear your thoughts on that before you're influenced by what I'm about to say. Perhaps you can drop that into the comment section. So, of the 4 different ways that I showed you, my personal preference is putting a reverb on a bus, simply because it gives me ultimate control. I understand if you're recording an amp with built-in reverb and that's just what you've got and that's what you want to capture, there's nothing wrong in doing that way. But for me, given the choice, I like to put my reverb on a bus. Number one, I record a lot of guitars. I'm always multi-tracking my guitars, and I want them to sort of exist in the same space. So by busing to the reverb, they're all sort of playing in the same room. Plus, I can EQ the reverb and get it working just right. I find putting a reverb on a track, it gets kind of washed out a little bit. It's just, well, number one, if I'm using multiple reverbs, it's unnecessary. And like I said, it kind of washes out the track a little bit. I find I just lose a lot of definition in the guitar. So definitely putting that reverb on the bus gives you ultimate control. Now, if you are recording reverb with your amplifier and you've got a choice, if you've got an amplifier with an effects loop, me personally, I much prefer using the effects loop. Again, it's all about definition and articulation, because if I put a reverb through the front of the amp, well, the amp is going to react to the reverb as well as the guitar. I want my amp to react to my playing in the guitar, and then I want to color it with some reverb and things like that. So that will happen by putting it into the effects loop. And but again, if you're creating different soundscapes and bigger sounds, and you want the amp to react to the reverb because that's kind of part of the instrument, well, for you, then going into the face of the amp is how you're going to achieve that. Just anything that you record, with reverb built in, you're stuck with it. There's nothing you can do later. So back to my first choice is having it on the bus. It gives me control. And one other thing I noticed, actually, by the way, is punching in, especially using long tail reverbs. I did a couple punch-ins, and I found that at that punch-in point, you kind of feel that reverb missing, and then it's got to catch up. So you have to be playing ahead of that punch-in point, and this way it's a little bit more of a seamless edit. It's just one extra thing to think about. Again, if you're recording clean, that's not even a consideration, because your reverb will affect the finished recorded and edited track. So just something to think about. But really, there's 4 different ways that you can consider. There are other ways to process reverb, but those are the 4 that I can think of. If I have missed any, or one that you think is important, definitely let me know in the comment section. If you want any more information about the X-Space pedal, this is a killer reverb pedal. Really, really enjoying this. I'll also put a link in the description. Make sure to check that out. Well, there you have my take on reverb when tracking guitars. Would certainly love your thoughts on that. Perhaps you've got a method you'd like to share that you're currently using. Well, once you share that in the description, I would certainly love to read it. Don't forget, if you did like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. If you want to do a deeper dive with me, I'm on Patreon. I have affiliate links, I have merch, and there's other ways to support the channel. All that information is in the description. But the most important thing is to check out another video. I've got one waiting for you right here. And remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. I look forward to seeing you again in another video.